In the restaurant that it makes most sense for me is that I cut chops. So I've kind of went through my demo already pretty much, but these are the most aesthetically, I think, pleasing to the eye for the American public. The Country Cat is an American restaurant. I do have French influence and just worldly influence. American cuisine is just kind of this melange of all these ideas from around the world. So when I think about American food, I think about what I grew up with from the Midwest perspective, and also moving out here into the Pacific Northwest and being able to kind of indoctrinate some of the ideas in regards to markets and my Midwestern upbringing, and being with my grandmother in the kitchen and being with my mother, and just kind of commingling all this together. It just, when I view the food and I view the animals, I look at it from a very American point of view, and how did I grow up eating it? How do I get the most satisfaction from my customer? Because that's really honestly what it's coming down to. There is an educational aspect of it, like I've always said from the beginning of this demonstration, that it's up to me in order to educate the public as well as my employees. So that is always constantly, going around in my brain. So when I look at it, this is the way that I like to eat the midsection, is with the pork chop. That's the way I grew up eating it. It makes the most sense to me, and it's probably my favorite piece. What we do is we will cut these, and then I would go all the way through, and then we do a brine, a salt sugar brine. I do put oranges and a little bit of cinnamon and some black pepper and herbs, and it's my general ratio is 4 cups of water to 3/4 cup of salt to a full cup of brown sugar. And I use brown sugar just because I like the way that it tastes. We expand that out, granted we do a lot of brine.
And how long does it brine for?
It brines for about 8 hours. About 8 hours. Take it out of the brine, put it on a rack, let it air dry, and then we pull from the rack when we're grilling it. We grill it on at the restaurant to order, and put it on the plate. Okay? So that's, one more time, honey. 4 cups of water, 3/4 cup of salt, and 1 cup of packed brown sugar. That's just the general brine that I use at the restaurant.
Well, yeah, he's using the same kind of salt all the time, so he doesn't need to weigh it. It'd be nice to know, because salt's way different. I'd love to know what your proportion is by weight.
Absolutely, because I use Diamond Crystal kosher salt, and I have from...
Which weighs considerably less than Morton's kosher salt. Morton's almost weighs a third more.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful.
Yeah.
But brining is a great thing to do for pork chops. It actually increases the moisture, it changes the cell structure, and it makes it it's a great thing to do for pork chops.
It is. I mean, to taste a pork chop like this, and then to taste a pork chop that's been brined, it's 2 different animals, so to speak. Really, really different. Michael's book explains that in when he's talking about brines. Yes, I'm sorry.
Nous, on fait de la saumure pour le pâté de tête.
They do a brine for head cheese, where they
I do as well.
Yes.
When I get my heads, I split the head down the middle.
Mais la saumure, nous, on la fait bouillir.
But when they do the brine, they boil it.
I brine it, pull it out of the brine, and then I boil it in pork bouillon. But I do not boil it in the brine.
They boil the brine. They heat the brine up to dissolve the salt.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise.
Yeah,
I mean, I kind of skipped over that. When you're making the brine, you want to bring it up to temperature to make sure that everything does dissolve. Taste it, see where you're at. And like Michael said, the salts are very, very different. So you got to be very careful and make sure that you're tasting as you go, because that way you can adjust it to your own palate. But we do that with the head cheese.
You can copy
In order to make it taste the way that I foresee it tasting the best. Like I was saying about Michael's book, the charcuterie book, it really explains the science factor of what is going on with the brine. Put it in the brine, it explains how the water goes in, what naturally happens with the cell structure, and how it actually flavors the meat. I think that's incredibly important to understand from the whole perspective of food in general. The science side of it is just as important as standing there on the saute pan or standing next to a grill flipping the pork chop. It's imperative to, in my position, I need to understand all of that so I can hopefully educate more and more people. But like I said, that book, it demystifies all of those kinds of questions in a very approachable way, and it makes it great for me and also for the home cook as well. But like I was saying before, this is, for the restaurant, that's the way that I leave it. If it was a larger pig, I would probably, fabricate it in a different fashion. But these are the size pigs that I do in fact get at the restaurant. So it makes the most sense for me to fabricate in this manner.
And can you walk us through what you do with the bellies?
So with the belly, we were talking about bacon in general, and I mean, pork in America is all about bacon. You know, and I think it's probably the most widely used piece of pork, you know, in any American home. So,
And in France, what would the saying be? Pork in France is all about the...
En France, je crois que c'est plutôt it's the ventre. It's the
Okay.
same.
Ah.
Because there's not one recipe that I don't start out with a slice of ventre cut up into lamb. That's like you got duck fat, ventre, you get both, and thyme and bay leaf. That's the base of almost every recipe.
that's the base of almost all of our braises, which is interesting for Kate to say that. I don't even think about it. That's the way we do it. I've got so much fat at the restaurant. Duck fat, bacon fat, pork fat, you know, tallow. But we always start off usually with either pork or duck fat, and then use low-notes to go straight into chili flake, bay leaf, and then rosemary usually. So with this, what I do at the restaurant is I go through and I roll this. This is just for the application for the plate, okay? I cut this skirt to butterfly out this piece so I can maximize my roll, and when I'm curing it, I do get a pretty quick cure on it because like what Kate and I were talking about, in order from a monetary perspective and also from a rotation, I need to make sure that I'm getting the most out of my product in the most timely fashion available, okay? Okay, so I make my cure, put my cure on, which is in the charcuterie book, there's a basic cure that is beautiful and it works really, really well. That cure for my bacon and for my pancetta is basically taken out of that book, putting in a little bit more spice, maybe manipulating it a little bit, obviously because of weight, but it is definitely the way that I roll.
So you put the cure on and then you
Put the
immediately
cure on.
roll?
No, I put the cure on and then I cure it for about 5 days, 5 to 6 days, under about 50 pounds of weight, rotating it just like I do with the hams. Okay, rotating it, making sure that it's all even, everything's getting cured evenly. It's very important. Okay.
What temperature do you cure?
One more time.
Temperature.
It's in my walk-in, so it's below 42 degrees, usually about 38 degrees.
You keep the skin on?
I do keep the skin on. I like it. I like it crispy. But I do go from this side in. So I end up with this at the very top. What's that? I'm sorry. I go through and pick out all the glands. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you rinse before you roll?
Do I rinse before I roll? Slightly. I usually just kind of take a wet cloth and push it off and just make sure that feel it, make sure that it's all cured the way that it needs to be. And then I will square it off. This goes into sausage, or this goes into the head cheese. I like putting a lot of things with my head cheese just because I want it to be meaty and have a really nice amount of flavor to it. This one actually looks pretty nice. When I'm trussing it, I do start in the middle, make a nice tie in the middle, and then I go from side to side. So it doesn't end up like this big Then I put it, and for this one, we actually roast it in our oven. I don't smoke this one. I roast it in our oven at about 350 degrees, 375 degrees, just until it's nice and crisp. It's a beautiful color, okay? And then I will cool it down entirely. We take all the truss off, and then we slice it so it's a nice roll. And then to order, we fry it up in bacon fat, so it gets really nice and crisp. But it's it's one of the most appealing pieces on the whole hog plate, because people are like, how the hell did you do it? And you know, what actually is this? And you know, you tell them, well, it's pork belly. It's like bacon. Oh, well, I just want it again. You know.